Ladies and gentlemen, Honorable President of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, distinguished guest, at the very outset, recitation from the Holy Book and its translation. I'm requesting Professor Dr. M.D. Abdul Rashid to recite from the Holy Quran.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يؤتي الحكمة من يشاء ومن يؤت الحكمة فقد أوتي خيرا كثيرا وما يذكر إلا أولو الألباب صدق الله العظيم আমি অভিশপ্ত শয়তানের কুমন্ত্রণা থেকে মহান আল্লাহর আশ্রয় প্রার্থনা করছি। পরম করুণাময় দাতা দয়ালু আল্লাহর নামে শুরু করছি। মহান আল্লাহ যাকে ইচ্ছা জ্ঞান বিজ্ঞান দান করেন, আর যাকে জ্ঞান বিজ্ঞান দান করা হয় তাকে প্রভূত কল্যাণ দান করা হয়। বস্তুত যারা বুদ্ধিমান তারাই কেবল শিক্ষা গ্রহণ করে থাকেন। সূরা আল বাকারা আয়াত 269। আসসালামু আলাইকুম ওয়া রাহমাতুল্লাহি ওয়া বারাকাতুহু।
I am requesting Professor Dr. Ashim Sarkar to recite from the Holy Gita.
নমস্কার। মুকং করোতি বাচালং পঙ্গুং লঙ্ঘয়তে গ্রীম ইয়ৎ কৃপাতমহং বন্দে পরমানন্দ মাধবম। শ্রীমদ্ভগবদ্গীতা চতুর্থ অধ্যায় জ্ঞানযোগ। পরমেশ্বর ভগবান শ্রীকৃষ্ণ বলেছেন, ন হি জ্ঞানেন সদৃশং পবিত্রমিহ বিদ্যুয়াতে তৎস্বয়ং যোগ সংসিদ্ধ কালেন আত্মনিবিন্দতি। এই জগতে জ্ঞানের মতো পবিত্র আর কিছুই নেই। জ্ঞান হচ্ছে সমস্ত যোগের পরিণত ফল। ভক্তি চর্চার মাধ্যমে যিনি জ্ঞান আয়ত্ত করেন তিনি কালক্রমে আত্মার পরাশান্তি লাভ করেন। পরমেশ্বর ভগবান শ্রীকৃষ্ণ আরও বলেছেন, শ্রদ্ধাবান লভতে জ্ঞানং তৎপর সংহিতেন্দ্রিয় জ্ঞানং লব্ধ পরাং শান্তিম অচিরেণ অধিগচ্ছতি। তৎপর সংযত ইন্দ্রিয় এবং শ্রদ্ধাবান ব্যক্তি জ্ঞান লাভ করে থাকেন। জ্ঞান লাভ করে তিনি অচিরেই পরাশান্তি প্রাপ্ত হন। সর্বে সুখিনো ভবন্তু সর্বে সন্তু নিরাময়া সর্বে ভদ্রাণি পশ্যন্তু মা কশ্চিৎ দুঃখ ভাগ ভবেৎ। সকলে সুখী হোক, সকলে নিরাময় হোক, সকলে মঙ্গল লাভ করুক, কেউ যেন দুঃখ ভোগ না করে। ওম শান্তি, ওম শান্তি, ওম শান্তি। জগতের সকল প্রাণী শান্তি লাভ করুক। সবাইকে নমস্কার।
I am requesting Professor Dr. Biman Chandra Borua to recite from the Holy Tripitaka.
নমো তস্য ভগবতো অরহত সম্মা সম্বুদ্ধস্য Buddhang Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammang Sharanam Gacchami, Sanghang Sharanam Gacchami, Uttanubato Satimoto, Shusikammasya Nishammakarino, Sayatasya Dhamma Jivino, Appamatasya Jasa Vivadati, Natang Kammam Katang Sadhu, Yang Kattahunu Tappati, Yasya Sumukurodhung, Vipakang Patisevati, Bhavatu Sabbamangalang, Sabbi Sattha, Sukita Bhavanthu, Nibbhanam, Paramang Sukham. অনুবাদ। আমি অরসম্য সম্বন্ধকে বন্দনা জানিয়ে বুদ্ধ ধর্ম এবং সংঘকে স্মরণ করছি, যিনি উদ্যমী, স্মৃতিমান, সংযত এবং ধর্মত জীবন যাপন করেন। সেই অপ্রমাদ পরায়ণ ব্যক্তির যশ ক্রমশ বৃদ্ধি পায়। যে কাজ করে অনুতাপ করতে হয়, কান্না করতে হয়, সেই কাজ না করাই উত্তম। সকলের মঙ্গল হোক, সকল প্রাণী সুখী হোক, নির্বাণ পরম সুখ, পরম শান্তি।
I am requesting Dr. Father Topon Di Rosario to recite from the Holy Bible.
A reading from the book of Isaiah, chapter 24, verses 1 to 6. The Lord is going to devastate the earth and leave it desolate. He will twist the earth's surface and scatter its people. Everyone will meet the same fate. The earth will lie shattered and ruined. The Lord God has spoken, and it will be done. The earth dries up and withers. The whole world grows weak. Both earth and sky decay. The people have defiled the earth by breaking God's laws and by violating the covenant He made to last forever. So, God has pronounced a curse on the earth. Its people are paying for what they have done. Fewer and fewer remain alive. দেখো, এই পৃথিবীকে শূন্যস্থান করছেন প্রভু, তা মরুভূমি করছেন, ভূমণ্ডল উল্টিয়ে ফেলছেন আর অধিবাসীদের বিক্ষিপ্ত করছেন। এই দশা ভোগ করবে সকলে। পৃথিবী একেবারে লুণ্ঠিত হবে, সবই লুটতরাজ, কারণ প্রভু এই বাণী উচ্চারণ করেছেন। পৃথিবী শোকাকুল, নিস্তেজ, জগৎ ম্লান, আকাশ ও পৃথিবী দুটোই ম্লান। পৃথিবী তার আপন অধিবাসীদের পদতলে কলুষিত, কারণ তারা সমস্ত বিধান লঙ্ঘন করেছে, বিধি অমান্য করেছে, চিরন্তন সন্ধি ভঙ্গ করেছে। এজন্য অভিশাপ পৃথিবীকে গ্রাস করছে, আর অধিবাসীরা এর দণ্ড বহন করছে। এজন্য পৃথিবীর অধিবাসীরা দগ্ধ হল, কেবল স্বল্প লোকই অবশিষ্ট রইল। Word of God. Praise the Lord.
Ladies and gentlemen, now I invite Professor Dr. Mustafizur Rahman, the Chief Coordinator of the conference, to present his welcome address.
Your Excellency, the Honorable President, People's Republic of Bangladesh, dear Chairman of the session, the Vice Chancellor of the Dhaka University, President of the Organizing Committee, Dr. Mannava Sivakumar, Chairman, International Committee on Climate Change and Food Security in South Asia, the Chargé Affairs of France Embassy to Bangladesh, the FAO country representative, dear participant, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon. It's given me a great pleasure to welcome you all here in the inaugural session of the International Conference on Climate Change and Food Security in South Asia, which is going to be held in Dhaka for the second time. I would like to mention you that we are celebrating 100 years of the Dhaka University, Golden Jubilee of our nation, 100 years anniversary of our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. The conference is very unique event of the Mujib Borsho. Please accept my greetings of the Mujib Borsho and the golden jubilee of our nation, Bangladesh. Over 100 experts from various disciplines, meteorology, agriculture, livestock, forestry, and fisheries, from all the countries in South Asian region, as well as experts from other world are participating in this conference. Dear participant, Dhaka is the city of grandson of Ashok, spread the word Buddhism. Here the first form of democracy was created under the Mauryan Empire. This is where great poets like Tagore, Nazrul spread their prose and poetry, and Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman fulfilled the contents of those. Today, Dhaka is the home of 30 million people. It is the fastest growing city in the world, with a family moving in 3 minutes, each having their own dreams and aspirations. And yet today, these dreams and aspirations are under threat, and the climate change and food security is the major issue. Distinguished guests, I would like to say something about the background of this conference. The research work, what I started with Lumiere CNRS France in the year 1982, and subsequently equipped in laboratory at the Dhaka University. We produced PhD masters under this program, and we have also organized 3 international conferences, several seminars, workshops in Dhaka with the help of 3 United Nations organizations, WMO, FAO, and SCAP. The last one was held in the year 2008. And it is the continuation of that one. We would like to observe the changes, what takes place, and find out the causes. In this conference, we have 8 technical sessions, 2 breakout sessions, and poster session. We have about 40 papers to present and 21 posters to discuss. Your Excellency, you will be happy to know that in this conference, there is a technical session on our flooding and their livelihood management, which is very much related with these climate changes. We hope this special type of conference will address the present issue of the climate change in crop production, and will make recommendation for the future planet. Thank you all.
Now, the opening dance and music will be jointly performed by the students of University of Dhaka and the artists of Shilpakala Academy. The composition is choreographed by Deepa Khandokar.
শুভ দিনে পিতার ভবনে অমৃত সদনে চলো যায় আজ শুভ দিনে পিতার ভবনে অমৃত সদনে চলো যায় চলো 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 ভাই চলো 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 ভাই আজ শুভ দিনে পিতার ভবনে অমৃত সদনে চলো যায় আজ শুভ দিনে পিতার ভবনে যায় আজ শুভ দিনে পিতার ভবনে অমৃত সদনে চলো যায় আজ শুভ দিনে পিতার ভবনে অমৃত সদনে চলো যায় মহোৎসবে ত্রিভুবন মাতিল মহোৎসবে ত্রিভুবন মাতিল কি আনন্দ উথলিল চলো 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 ভাই চলো 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 ভাই আজ শুভ দিনে পিতার ভবনে অমৃত সদনে চলো যায় আজ শুভ দিনে পিতার ভবনে অমৃত সদনে চলো যায়
আহা কি আনন্দ আকাশে বাতাসে শাখে শাখে পাখি ডাকে কত শোভা চারিপাশে আহা কি আনন্দ আকাশে বাতাসে আজকে মোদের বড়ই সুখের দিন আজ ঘরের বাঁধন ছেড়ে মোরা হয়েছি স্বাধীন আহা হয়েছি স্বাধীন আহা কি আনন্দ আকাশে বাতাসে শাখে শাখে পাখি ডাকে কত শোভা চারিপাশে আহা কি আনন্দ আকাশে বাতাসে
প্রভাত বীণা তব বাজে বাজে হে প্রভাত বীণা তব বাজে উদার অম্বর মাঝে উদার অম্বর মাঝে বাজে হে প্রভাত বীণা তব বাজে তুষার কান্তি তব প্রশান্তি শুভ্র আলোকে রাজে হে প্রভাত বীণা তব বাজে বাজে হে প্রভাত বীণা তব বাজে তব আনন্দিত গভীর বাণী শুনে চরাচর যুক্ত প্রাণী মন্ত্রমুগ্ধা ভাবগঙ্গা মন্ত্রমুগ্ধা ভাবগঙ্গা নিস্তরঙ্গা রাজে হে প্রভাত বীণা তব বাজে বাজে হে প্রভাত বীণা তব বাজে উদার অম্বর মাঝে বাজে বাজে হে প্রভাত বীণা তব বাজে
May I request Dr. Mannava Sivakumar, Senior Consultant, World Meteorological Organization, Switzerland, and Chairman, International Organizing Committee, to please deliver his address.
Your Excellency, Mr. Abdul Hamid, Honorable President of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Professor Muhammad Akhtaruzzaman, Vice Chancellor and President of the Organizing Committee, Dr. Mustafizur Rahman, Chief Coordinator of the International Conference, Mr. Guillaume Audren de Kerdrel, Deputy Head of Mission Embassy of France, Mr. Robert Simpson, Country Representative of the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, Dr. Thierry Hulen, Member of the International Organizing Committee, Dr. Maqsood Kamal, Pro Vice Chancellor, University of Dhaka, and Vice President of the Organizing Committee, distinguished participants and guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me as the Chairman of the International Organizing Committee of this International Conference on Climate Change and Food Security in South Asia to welcome you all to this international conference. We are pleased that this conference is jointly sponsored by the World Meteorological Organization, WMO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, the University of Dhaka, and the Government of Bangladesh. As you all may be aware, climate change has multi-dimensional impacts on agro-ecosystems in South Asia, including increases in temperature, declines in freshwater availability, sea level rise, glacial melting in the Himalayas, increased frequency and intensity of extreme events, and shifting of cropping zones. They all impact agriculture and the related food sector, as well as general economies, societies, and environment in South Asia. The serious problems of soil degradation and desertification are likely to be exacerbated by climate change through accelerated erosion, fertility depletion, salinization, acidification. Subsistence agriculture characterized by low productivity and extractive farming is extremely vulnerable to climate change. In this international conference, we need to discuss these key issues, identify knowledge gaps and opportunities for policymakers. We need to develop the key recommendations to stimulate multidisciplinary research on climate change and food security in South Asia and identify mitigation and adaptation options to climate change while advancing food security in South Asia. As you can see in the program for this international conference, we have 8 technical sessions in which good experts are going to make presentations, and at the end, we will develop appropriate recommendations. In the closing session, we will present a Dhaka declaration to address the climate change and food security in South Asia. I am pleased to inform you that the proceedings of this international conference will be published as a book, and we'll be happy to share this book with all of you once it is available. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Guillaume Audren de Kerdrel, Chargé d'Affaires of France to Bangladesh, for delivering his speech.
Your Excellency, Mr. Abdul Hamid, Honorable President of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, distinguished guests, dear participants. It's an honor and privilege to be here today at the opening session of the International Conference on Climate Change and on Food Security in South Asia. And I would like to express my gratitude to Dhaka University and CNRS for organizing this important event. The rise in temperature over the last decades is a matter of public record everywhere in the world. In Bangladesh, people are experiencing global warming in a very concrete way. Storms, cyclones, landslides, flooding, and salinization are displacing large numbers of households. Rising sea levels and coastal erosion could lead to a loss of 17% of land surface and 30% of food production by 2050. At the same time, when the world's population is growing and the availability of new arable land is shrinking, ensuring food and nutrition security remains one of the greatest challenges. Addressing climate change as a national priority, Bangladesh has invested a lot in climate change actions, increasing the capacities of communities in terms of resilience, strengthening river embankments, building emergency cyclone shelters and homes, adapting rural farming systems, reducing saline water intrusion, and implementing emergency management systems. Despite the inventiveness and resilience of Bangladesh, which could serve as examples for many other states, urgent action is needed. By working all together, we can encourage higher standards. Science is globalizing, and these challenges are not unique to any part of the world. They affect us all. For many years now, cooperation between French and Bangladeshi scientists has been rich and diverse. This conference has a significant role to play in strengthening this relationship, especially in this year, which marks the 50th anniversary of our diplomatic relations. I am sure that these 4 days will lay the foundations for new areas of cooperation. France has adopted an effective environmental diplomacy with results such as those achieved at the COP21 and the Paris Climate Agreement. COP26 marked a global upgrade in mitigation commitments aimed at adjusting to climate change and its consequences, including food security. With the presidency of the Council of the European Union, France is now committed to build a greener Europe that promotes multilateralism in fighting climate change while adopting a shared vision among the 27 member states regarding environmental partnerships. Our cooperation in terms of climate change, food security, and biodiversity is vital, and our nations have to be more united than ever in addressing these challenges. It is in this spirit that I wish all the success of this conference. I am convinced that it will mark the beginning of a new chapter and lead to a better understanding of the situation. Thank you for your kind attention.
Now I invite Mr. Robert Douglas Simpson, Country Representative of Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, to present his speech.
Your Excellency, Honorable Chief Guest, Mr. Mohammed Abdul Hamid, President of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, our esteemed Honorable Chairperson, Dr. Akhtaruzaman, Vice Chancellor of the University of Dhaka and President of the Organizing Committee, our distinguished speakers, Mr. Chargé d'Affaires of the Embassy of France, the Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization, our Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Dhaka, the Director of Research of the Lemur BIAM CNRS, our Senior Consultant of the World Meteorological Organization, and the Professor of the Department of Soil, Water, and Environment at the University of Dhaka. Colleagues from the University of Dhaka, ladies and gentlemen, assalamu alaikum. A very good afternoon to all of you. First, I extend my sincere thanks to the organizers of this event, and I extend my regrets from our Director General, who was originally invited and delegated the participation task to myself. He was regretfully unable to attend, but very impressed that the University of Dhaka would take on such an event, such as evaluating climate change and food security in South Asia. I also want to recognize the very important, that this is a very important event for the region, and that I think it's extremely important for Bangladesh to take on these types of events and put its face forward in this particular dialogue. It's very clear within the United Nations that the country of Bangladesh has a lot to offer, certainly in exchange, and has a very powerful voice on the global scene, which is increasing by the year. I'd also like to recognize that Bangladesh has made significant investments and progress in the direction of addressing their climate challenges, in particular noting the inauguration of the Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan last year, but also that they've made great progress in developing their national determined contribution and also the National Adaptation Plan. Together, these form the policy, the plan, and the means to take action, which I think is a strong example for the region. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in Bangladesh, the climate has gotten warmer, wetter, and certainly more variable, and this is likely to continue in the future. Future projections indicate a 10% increase in temperature and 5% increase in rainfall by 2050. Greater challenges and changes are more variable rainfall, more extreme cyclone events, flooding, extreme weather events, salinization, and with this comes more extreme landslide events in the future. Such climate anomalies are widespread in South Asia and difficult for farmers to adapt to. Climate change thus looms as a threat to agriculture value chains. Communities have very limited resources with which to adapt to these ever-changing climatic shocks and climatic situation. The capacity for early warning and weather advisory systems is improving, but their impact remain variable. Small-scale and women farmers, as well as micro and small and medium enterprises, have limited access to formal financial resources to invest in adaptation technologies. To address financial gaps for agriculture value chains in Bangladesh and elsewhere in the region, FAO and partners are working to support smallholder farmers to access the financial resources and tools they need to combat climate change. This also involves de-risking supply chains, national revolving funding facilities, and grant facilities for results-based investments. These solutions are scalable and aimed at the private sector to engage them more in climate action. There will be a regional consultation this year hosted in Bangladesh to support dialogue specifically on overcoming barriers for enabling greater participation of micro, small, and medium enterprises in these climate actions. There are many organizations that are working to address these challenges with innovative and forward-thinking approaches. Last year, there were a number of successful dialogues and forums that contributed to the UN Food Systems Summit. Multiple partners from government, private sector, academic institutions, and other non-governmental organizations put forward their best ideas for positively reforming our food systems. Many of these ideas were holistic and responsive to the realities of climate change and impacts on the environment. FAO is providing multiple layers of support to countries to further their ambitions for resilience and low emissions in agri-food systems under the Paris Agreement. In 9 countries around the region, FAO has been implementing programs to support transparency in global greenhouse gas emissions reporting. FAO is also working with countries in the region to help turn national determined contributions into action on the ground. FAO is pleased to support climate-resilient agriculture and food system transformation throughout the region. Importantly, it supports government access to the Global Environmental Facility, Green Climate Fund, and other climate financing sources. FAO has mobilized over $650 million for climate environmental financing within the region. We're at this most recent regional conference in 2020 held here in Dhaka. FAO member countries endorsed new regional priorities to guide FAO's work in the region, including continued action to mobilize additional and new resources of climate financing to meet their growing needs for investment and resilience of low-emission agri-food systems. Ladies and gentlemen, these initiatives and challenges are require multi-billion-dollar responses, and increasingly, we need to use the resources we have today to leverage the private sector, other development partners, and government mechanisms to adapt nature-based solutions. With this said, on behalf of FAO, I again congratulate the organizers of this event. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. I look forward to the results and the deliberations in the coming days, and FAO is certainly committed to following through on resolutions and actions that may come from this conference. Thank you.
Professor Dr. Petteri Talas.
Greetings from World Meteorological Organization in Geneva. It's a pleasure for me to address you at this food security conference that you are having. According to the IPCC assessment report for South Asia, the observed mean surface temperature increase has clearly emerged out of the range of internal variability compared to the period of 1850 to 1900. Heat extremes have increased while cold extremes have decreased, and these trends will continue over the coming decades with very high confidence. The South Asian monsoon has weakened in the second half of the 20th century with high confidence. The dominant cause of observed decrease of South and Southeast Asian monsoon precipitation since mid-20th century is anthropogenic aerosol forcing. Thirdly, heat waves and humid heat stress will be more intense and more frequent during the 21st century with medium confidence. And finally, both annual and summer monsoon precipitation will increase during the 21st century with enhanced interannual variability with medium confidence. From WMO side, I would like to say that farmers in South Asia will be expected to manage the more insidious effects of long-term climate change, which will be occurring at an unprecedented rate. Against the favorable economic scenarios of the last decades, farmers have been struggling to preserve their incomes by continuously increasing their production system yields. Such increased productivity will be associated with increased economic and environmental risks as the farming systems further become vulnerable to climate variability and change. These pressures will demand the development and implementation of the most appropriate methods to address vulnerabilities in terms of weather, climate and water, which is the realm of WMO's competence. Accordingly, a principal WMO goal is to make farmers more self-reliant by better preparing them to cope with major issues influencing agricultural production, especially to deal with climate change and its impacts more effectively in South Asia. It will increasingly be necessary to identify integrated adaptation and mitigation strategies for a range of ecosystems. In this context, I wish to highlight some strategic options in the specific context of food security, which may be especially useful to South Asian nations in addressing the climate change challenge. Firstly, to improve climate monitoring in order to assess the impacts of future climate change on South Asian managed and unmanaged ecosystems. It will be crucial to monitor local climate and the effects of extreme events on food production, especially by taking advantage of recent developments in observing systems. More efficient use of natural resources. Resource conservation will be the first step in coping with climate change, for example, through soil and moisture preservation and efficiency, runoff collection and recycling, reforestation, and reduction of biomass burning. Thirdly, enhanced capacity building. Human resources development will be essential for the effective implementation of adaptation strategies at the national and regional levels. And finally, science and technology acquisition and development. In some South Asian countries, there is urgent need to incorporate more modern techniques and methods to effectively manage natural resources, especially in terms of soil, climate and water resources for agriculture. Finally, support to the South Asia Climate Outlook Forum. This has been a success in providing better access to seasonal climate predictions, would assist farmers in optimally adjusting their planting dates, varieties, crops, and management systems, while reducing agricultural vulnerabilities to floods and droughts. Thank you.
Dr. Thierry Hulin, Director of Research CNRS France, initiated the program in Bangladesh in the year of 1987. He was kind enough to send us his valuable speech. May we please watch the video message on the screen.
Your Excellencies, the Honorable President, People's Republic of Bangladesh, dear President of the Session, the Vice Chancellor of the Dhaka University, Pro-Vice Chancellor of the Dhaka University, Dr. Mannava Sivakumar, Chairman International Committee of CCFS, the French Chargé d'Affaires of the French Embassy at Dhaka, Bangladesh, the FAO country representative. Dear participants, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is very important to know who played what role and what was the involvement of an individual or group for the success of such an event. First of all, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Honorable Chief Guest, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdul Hamid, to be present in this session to inaugurate our 3 days long international conference on climate change and food security in South Asia. It is quite impossible to forget the help of President of the organizing committee, Professor Rahman, the Vice Chancellor of the Dhaka University. We came to know his very helping attitude and his contribution towards the success of this conference. He should be greatly acknowledged for that. Our special thanks also him for including this conference as one of the events of the Mujib Borso 2020. We whole international committee accept it with pleasure, and we are happy to be the part of the birth centenary celebration event of the father of the nation, Magabundu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. I would like to take some time to explain you the backhistory of this conference. My friend, Professor Mustafizur Rahman, gave you a brief about in organizing such conference with the help of an international organization. The type of organization has a mandate to do this. But what about the private sector? Private sector should come forward to involve such type of scientific events. In this issue, I remember the contribution of late Mr. Jahurul Islam, the then chairman of the Islam Group of Bangladesh. In the year 1990, he provided us facilities to conduct field experiments and become our partner in organizing the international conference in the year 1994. We remember him with gratitude. We also set up a private soil analytical laboratory there in the remote village and a group of scientists employed by this group. I feel that private sector should come forward for such cooperation. We remember to help the help of and contribution of the French embassy at Dhaka. It is a very long story and history. I will not go for details, but only one thing is that for the first time we initiated to send service volunteer to Bangladesh through our project financially supported by French and European funds. Vice versa, we have received in France several students and scientists from Bangladesh too. I hope it will be start again with present administration. Professor Rahman and I will be ready to assist for that, and I'm waiting to meet Honorable Vice Chancellor in Paris soon to discuss. Distinguished guests, we would like to thank you all for your presence. Without your presence, this cannot be a success. The local organizing committee really showed its extraordinary activities to make it a success. On behalf of the International Organizing Committee, we would like to give special thanks to the two men who worked hard They have done a great job, and we are really grateful for them. They are Professor Abdul and Professor Dr. Mustafizur Rahman. I would like to congratulate Professor Maksud Kamal, Pro Vice Chancellor, Academic Data University, for his attitude to develop educational research in Quage, and I'm ready to help. I will acknowledge his letter to me. The International Organizing Committee extends thanks to all other members of the Organizing Committee and Working Committee for their efforts. Before I finish, I would like to express our sincere thanks to all who came forward to help us in various manners and ways. I hope that you might have, by this time, understood why this conference is being organized in Dhaka. Organizing this conference was initiated with the leadership of Professor Dr. Abdul. Without his guidance, this event would not have been successful. Our heartiest thanks for his continued support and cooperation in that regards. We also extend our deep sense of gratitude and thanks to the official of the President's Secretariat and the Office of the Vice Chancellor, University of Dhaka, to make this conference a great success. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Now, vote of thanks will be extended by Professor Dr. A.S.M. Maksud Kamal, Pro Vice Chancellor, University of Dhaka, and Vice President of the Organizing Committee of the conference.
Your Excellency, Mr. Muhammad Abdul Hamid, Honorable President of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Chief Guest of the conference. Professor Dr. Muhammad Akhtaruzzaman, Honorable Vice Chancellor of the University of Dhaka and President of the Organizing Committee. Mr. Robert Douglas Simpson, Country Representative of the Food and Agriculture Organization. Mr. Guillaume, Audren the Kerdrel, Chargé Affairs, Embassy of the Friends, Dhaka. Dr. Mannava Sivakumar, Chairman International Committee of the Conference of CCFS. Professor Dr. Mustafizur, Chief Coordinator of the conference, and we came to know the recorded delivery from Professor Dr. Pitre Talas, Secretary General World Meteorological Organization, and Dr. Thierry Heulin, Director of Research of CNRS. Respected participants, national and international community, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon. It's my immense pleasure and privilege to offer vote of thanks in the inaugural session of the 3 days long international conference going to be held in Dhaka on climate change and food security in the South Asian region. You are aware that climate change is not only the reality. We do see the impacts of the climate change and climate extremes in our lives and livelihood. The climate-induced food security is one of the major concerns of the international community. As such phenomenon is the observed consequence and directly impacting mankind, which is more pertinent for the countries of the South Asian region for many causes. I am happy to say that the conference is organized as a unique event of Mujib Borsha to observe the 100th birth anniversary of our great leader, Father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. As I mentioned, His Excellency Honorable President of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Mr. Muhammad Abdul Hamid, is connected with us in this inaugural session of the conference at the virtual platform. I would like to express our sincere gratitude and gratefulness to His Excellency to give us time and encouraging the national and international community engaged in managing climate-induced food security. I would like to express my gratitude to Professor Dr. Pitre Talas, the Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization, joining the conference and providing the all needful supports and thoughts. I would like to extend gratitude to Mr. Robert Douglas Simpson, Country Representative of the FAO, for his presence and his personal time to make this conference a great success. Under his leadership, His office and some of his deputies, particularly Dr. Khandukar Noor, always keep his contact with Professor Dr. Mustafizur Rahman, the chief coordinator of the event. Our sincere thanks to Professor Balarendra, former director of the research of CNRS, who was the initiator of this expedition, while the responsibility was taken later on by Dr. Thierry Helen, who demonstrated how bilateral issues turn into an international and multinational event. Dr. Helen provided tremendous support by having continuous engagement with the key personnel of this conference. I would like to express my sincere thanks to Mr. Guillaume Audren de Kerdrel, Chargé d'Affaires of the Embassy of France in Bangladesh, for his presence and excellent deliberation for the future collaboration between the University of Dhaka and France counterpart. I have to mention the name of Dr. Mannava Sivakumar, Senior Consultant of the World Meteorological Organization and the Chairman of the International Committee of CCFS. He was instrumental in making the conference happen. In the journey, I would like to convey special thanks to Professor Mustafizur Rahman of the Department of Soil, Water and Environment of the University of Dhaka, who was also the instrumental to conduct continuous communication with the national and international organization and making all our efforts for shaping the conference successful. It is noteworthy to mention that our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Mohammad Akhtaruzzamani, provided all fruitful decision from major to minor to make the conference a success. His firm determination to organize the conference and to establish connection with all distinguished guests set an example. Moreover, we also extend our deep sense of gratitude and thanks to the staff of our office to bring this conference to the stage of success. You came to know that 40 papers and 21 posters would be presented at the conference. Our thanks to all the contributors from home and abroad to provide the decision-making thoughts and findings. On behalf of the organizing committee, I am pleased to offer thanks particularly to three organizations: Food and Agricultural Organization, that is FAO, World Meteorological Organization, WMO, and the Center of Natural Resource Studies, CNRS, who sponsored this Congress. Our special thanks to the print and electronic media who are here with us to cover the conference. I hope with the support of the media, the outcomes of the conference will be disseminated elsewhere at home and abroad to take the responsibility for the burning consequence of climate change-induced food security by the national and international community. Before I finish, I would like to express my sincere thanks to all the members of the organizing committee and working committee of CCFS for taking the painstaking loads to bring the conference to this stage, shouldering all challenges amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Once again, gratefulness to His Excellency Mr. Muhammad Abdul Hamid, Honorable President of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, for your kind and gracious presence at this auspicious conference. Thanks to the officials of His Excellency's office to provide us remarkable support. Thank you all for being with us. Thank you.
Now I invite Professor Dr. M.D. Akhtaruzzamani, Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Dhaka, and the President of the Organizing Committee of the conference to give his presidential speech.
Honorable President of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, as well as the Honorable Chancellor of the University of Dhaka, His Excellency Mr. Muhammad Abdul Hamid, Mr. Robert Douglas Simpson, Honorable Country Representative, Food and Agricultural Organization, Bangladesh, Excellency Mr. Guillaume de Kerdrel, His Excellency Chargé d'Affaires, Embassy of France, Dhaka, Dr. Mannava Sivakumar, Senior Consultant, and who also is the Chairman of International Conference Committee, Professor Dr. S.M. Maqsood Kamal, Honorable Vice Chancellor Academic, University of Dhaka, Professor Mustafizur Rahman, Chief Coordinator of this international conference, esteemed colleagues, faculty members, distinguished scientists from home and abroad, conference participants, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, assalamu alaikum, and wishing all of us the best on earth in the years to come. Greetings of the Mujib Barsha, the Golden Jubilee of the Independence of Bangladesh, and the centenary of the University of Dhaka. Ladies and gentlemen, the conference titled Climate Change and Food Security in South Asia is being jointly organized by the University of Dhaka and National Center for Scientific Research, CNRS, France, in collaboration with Food and Agriculture Organization, World Meteorological Organization, and United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific. It is designed to further the deliberations of the symposium held on this subject back in 2008. In this conference too, we are fortunate to have with us leading experts from various disciplines, including meteorology, agriculture, livestock, and forestry from South Asia and various parts of Europe, and a few other areas of the globe. This particular conference was conceived as a unique event, originally scheduled for March 2020 as part of the birth centenary of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. It had to be shifted because of the pandemic reigning then. After 2 years of COVID-19, and now that its strength seems to be ebbing, we have been able to gather more than 100 distinguished scientists, not only from Bangladesh, but also from a few other parts of the world. You have already listened to Dr. Mustafizur Rahman, the chief coordinator of this conference, and know from his speech that this collaborative venture had its genesis when Professor Rahman was conducting his PhD at CNRS, France. He was then able to come up with a sustainable project to do research which would lead to boost up production through biological means. A modern laboratory was subsequently set up at the University of Dhaka. Today, it is gratifying for us to hear video messages from Dr. Thierry Hulin, Director, National Center for Scientific Research, France, Professor Dr. Petri Talas, Secretary General, World Meteorological Organization, and a speech of His Excellency, the Ambassador of France, Mr. Guillaume de Kerdrel, that they are very much interested in helping us continue with the development program of the university. I appreciate their noble gesture and hope that our scientists will be inspired by the outcome of this collaborative effort and will find in the future more partners to hold bilateral or multilateral collaborative programs like this one, programs that will not only advance path-breaking research but also help mold public and international opinion and lead to adoption of national policies aimed at creating sustainable societies. Hopefully, our initiatives will also inspire universities and research bodies to utilize our young scientists and researchers and to place them in the vanguard of the forces combating climate change to help minimize its impact, redesign academic curricula, and lead to more and such fruitful collaborative efforts. There is no denying the fact that the debilitating effects of climate change are evident everywhere on the planet. These, of course, include global warming, changes in precipitation pattern, sea level rise, acidification of the oceans, and increased storm intensity. A further consequence of some of these phenomena is the substantial reduction in outputs of agricultural crops in some parts of the world. Clearly, the time has come for us in academic environments to do our utmost to combat the situation and find ways out for us all with the help of state-of-the-art research and projects like the present one. While scientific pursuits is research and teaching must be prioritized, creative thinking in humanities and social sciences also need to go on to address the many philosophical, social, political, legal, and cultural dimensions of environmental problems. There can be no doubt that only multi-sectoral and multi-dimensional approaches to climate change and food security issues will enable the global community to achieve its shared goals and objectives. Here, I would like to recall with profound regards the global role our Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, the proud daughter of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, as well as the distinguished alumnus of this university, has been playing in helping mitigate climate change through the adoption of creative as well as sustainable strategies. Honorable Chief Guest, His Excellency, Mr. President, We are indeed thankful to you, sir. Your kind presence has lent this conference great distinction. Let me also especially thank CNRS France, World Meteorological Organization, the Food and Agricultural Organization, and the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific for joining hands with the University of Dhaka to undertake this wonderful event, accommodating more than 100 scientists from home and abroad. By way of conclusion, let me quote Mr. Kofi Annan, the former United Nations Secretary General, quote, "More than ever before in human history, we share a common destiny. We can master it only if we can face it together." Thank you very much, distinguished guests, delegates, and participants, for your kind support. Thank you all. Jai Bangla, Jai Bangabandhu. Live long, University of Dhaka. Live long, Bangladesh.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have the privilege to humbly request the Honorable Chief Guest, the Honorable President of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, and the Honorable Chancellor of the University of Dhaka, His Excellency, Mr. M.D. Abdul Hamid, to deliver his speech and to kindly inaugurate the conference. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable President.
Assalamu alaikum. Honorable Vice Chancellor of Dhaka University and Chair of this session, Professor Dr. Akhtaruzzaman. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. It gives me immense pleasure to be here in the inaugural session of the International Conference on Climate Change and Food Security in South Asia. At the outset, I would like to recall with profound respect the greatest Bengali of all time, father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. I pay my deepest tributes to our four national leaders and valiant freedom fighters who made supreme sacrifice for the sake of our independence. I also recall the contributions of our foreign friends and supporters during the War of Liberation in 1971. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not here today just to discuss and debate issue of global warming and food security. This is not just another conference on climate change, rather an opportunity to share what we heard, felt, and understood from our planet. I am happy to know that the organizers keep a session on our flooding and livelihood management. Mitamun, a remote Haur area is my birthplace. I know the real situation and problem of this area. It is a matter of great satisfaction that scientists from home and abroad have come forward to solve the problem. I also noticed the eagerness of international community regarding the impact of climate change on Bangladesh, especially in the coastal areas. According to various scientific research and reports, it has come to my knowledge that Bangladesh could lose as much as 1/3 of its land mass due to the rise of sea level. Maldives could disappear entirely. The floodplains of India and Pakistan could face permanent inundation, leaving millions in this region displaced. Climate change will disproportionately hurt the poor. Its irreversible effect will steal the livelihood of millions who depend on their land, and the process has already begun. Ladies and gentlemen, the present government, under the able leadership of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, competent daughter of Father of the Nation Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, is trying relentlessly to ensure a sustainable environment for comfortable living of the present and future population of the country. Recently, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has successfully implemented the activities of planting 1 crore of plants as part of celebration of the birth centenary of Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. The government has taken the Bangladesh Delta Plan 2100 to secure the future of water resources and mitigate the likely effects of climate change and natural disaster. This plan is a broad-based, long-term vision about the likely changes and necessary interventions to make the Bangladesh Delta a safe one by the end of the 21st century. Bangladesh has also drafted a national adaptation plan in 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, South Asia, home to around 22% of the global human population, is particularly vulnerable to climate change. It is predominantly an agricultural region where the people depend on crops and livestock for their livelihoods. The river Ganges and the Brahmaputra are flowing through the region, supporting livelihoods for millions of people living in the river basin. But water pollution, dam construction, and diverting water from upstream are causing drought, flash flood, and increase in salinity at the downstream. But the greatest challenge people living in the region will face in coming years is the threat of rising sea level caused by climate change. Future projections of climate change impacts indicate that in some South Asian countries, a substantial reduction in agricultural crops could occur. Ladies and gentlemen, on account of its geographic location and topography, Bangladesh is likely to experience harsh climatic consequences as global temperatures rise and severe weather conditions like hold worldwide. Bangladesh food supply have improved a lot, although threatened by sudden floods due to unseasonable rain, rapid melting of glaciers in the Himalayas, and droughts exacerbated by high temperatures during the dry season. The climate change, in conjunction with the physiographic and high population with low resources, is exacerbating the problem. Climate refugees. Thus, there is an urgent need to address the serious manifestation of this global issue Bangladesh is now facing in concrete ways. Respected scientists, researchers, and distinguished participants, through your research and analysis, you have been attentive to the planet and the environment, and the result of your hard work is helping us to understand better what our planet is trying to say. What type of planet will our next generation inherit? And how can we make our planet a better place? We have the responsibility to communicate these messages to others, most importantly to those who lead the countries and the organizations concerned with the global warming. Ladies and gentlemen, climate change and food security is a long-standing issue. Business as usual approach will not help reduce the adverse impact of global warming. Drastic measures are required, and they are required right now. Every nation must do their part to cut emissions. This is a global problem that will require a global initiative. Developed nations must accelerate the process to cut greenhouse gas emission and must have to provide adequate additional resources to tackle the problem created by climate change. Research must be pushed further to develop high-yielding and flood, drought and salinity-tolerant varieties of crops. Focus should be given to research, capacity building and infrastructure development to adopt proper adaptation strategies. Nations of South Asia must work together and in one clear voice for equitable solution to climate change and food security in international negotiations. Ladies and gentlemen, considering the vulnerabilities and the worst effect, the world is more united than ever before in addressing the threats of climate change. We cannot remain idle until this misfortune actually unfolds. The time of action cannot be delayed. Consolatory commitments, showy speeches, attractive slogans, and presentation of substantial papers are not enough to mitigate the problem. We must turn our words into action, and we must take comprehensive and integrated steps to combat the adverse effect of global warming on food security. Climate change knows no boundary. It is a global issue that demands global response, and I hope that the international community, particularly historically high greenhouse gas emitters, multinational organizations, development partners, scientists, media, policymakers, and civil society will come forward to provide assistance in tackling the loss of lives and livelihood due to climate change. The time for action is now, and there is simply no time for delay. Ladies and gentlemen, this international conference on climate change and food security is at the vanguard of finding a solution to the problems of the planet. It is not what the planet can do for you, but rather what we can do for the planet. We would like to see the nature and all the creations of Almighty are flourishing uninterruptedly. I use the International Conference on Climate Change and Food Security in South Asia a grand success and declare the conference open. Stay well and healthy, everyone. May Allah be with us. Joy Bangla. Khuda Hafiz. May Bangladesh live forever. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Honorable President, for your invaluable speech and inspiring guidelines. Ladies and gentlemen, with kind consent of Honorable President, opening ceremony is being closed today. Thank you, Honorable President. Thank you all.